What is up, everyone? Welcome to another Villainous Rant where I give you my unfiltered, unedited thoughts on whatever it is I happen to be talking about in this video. And for this one in particular, I am talking about Miss Marvel Episode 4. Just like my other 3 videos on Miss Marvel, this will be a spoiler-filled video, and if you don't want to be spoiled in the episode, then please vacate the premises, watch it, come back, and then hear what I have to say. So, at the end of episode 3 of Miss Marvel, we left off with Kamala being hailed to Pakistan by her grandmother because they both shared the same vision. Now, Kamala is in a bit of a shaky set with her family right now because of everything that happened in episode 3. She kind of ruined her brother's wedding by trying to protect them from the jinn that attacked, but obviously she hasn't told her parents that she has powers or why she did everything, so her mother is kind of on the rocks with her. They're not on good terms at the moment. But because her grandmother asked the two of them to come, she reluctantly took Kamala to Pakistan, basically forelaying her grounding that she received at the end of episode 3. So, now, this episode was actually really fun. I am very unfamiliar with Pakistan, so seeing everything in this episode was very fresh and new to me. I really liked seeing the culture that was put on display. That was pretty cool. I've loved the soundtrack for Miss Marvel ever since the first episode. It's like this blend of like American and what I would assume is Pakistani music, and I really like it. It fits the tone of the show very well. So the plot of this episode, more or less, is that Kamala ends up in Pakistan. She starts learning more about where her powers came from, who the jinn are, and so on and so forth. And hold on a second, my nose is really bothering me. Sorry about that. So, Kamala is in Pakistan learning about her powers in the jinn that have been trying to attack her and steal her bangle from her. And we learn about this new secret organization and a superhero called the Red Dagger. Well, he's more of a vigilante than he is a superhero. He protects Pakistan from threats from the jinn and other things that would do them harm. And I found that really interesting. I kind of like this character. I like the actor who's portraying him. He's got a lot of charisma. He seems like an interesting character that I wouldn't mind learning more about. Not necessarily a full spin-off thing, because I know Marvel tends to do that. I'm not really looking forward to a Red Dagger show or anything, but if he shows up more in Miss Marvel canon and everything, I'm definitely down to see him play more of a role in her story. That'd be cool. But an apprehension I did have from the beginning of the show for Miss Marvel would definitely have been the change to her powers. I mentioned it before that Miss Marvel was really originally an Inhuman in the comics and everything, and her powers are more or less similar to Mr. Fantastic with stretching and all that. So I was very concerned about what would happen when they changed her powers, because in other superhero media, whenever they tweak powers or a character's origin story, it messes up what happens with the character. Like in Man of Steel, they tweaked Superman's origins a bit, and it made him extremely unlikable, in my opinion. Same thing with like Iron Fist, they kind of changed up his character a little bit for the story, and he's just not as charismatic and fun, and I didn't particularly like it. There are a bunch of other characters, but I'm not going to list them all, but you get my point. So when it came to Miss Marvel, and they were like, we're changing the powers because we don't think it fits in well with our universe, I was very concerned, but I've kind of lost that now, because seeing this story that they're unfolding with Kamala's new set of abilities that are still similar to what she has in the comics, just a new take on them, and seeing how she uses them in combat and everything, it looks really nice. I like the effects for it, and I like what they're using them for unique combat sequences and comedy. I think it's really nice. I am enjoying it immensely, and I want to learn more about this story that they're crafting for her with these new powers. So I think they're doing a good job. This feels more in line with like an Elseworlds version of a character, because one of the most interesting characters that I liked, granted this is from DC Comics, was the Red Death Batman. He is a Batman who lost everything and gained the Flash's superpowers and went completely manic. I always found him interesting and wanted to learn more about him because of that setup. Now, this version of Kamala has a different set of abilities, and it's kind of hooked me in, and I'm interested, and I want to see where they go with it, but it still maintains the core of the character in a way. It's just leading them in a different direction. So my example may have been pretty bad, but you get the point that I'm going with here. So I'm very interested to see where that's going. I like the explanation that they explained that if the Jinn happen to breach the barrier to go home, it will destroy our world. I'm not sure if it's in the scale of the universe or if it's just Earth in particular, but either way, it will cause some kind of cosmic destruction if the Jinn steal the bangle and go home, which is added stakes. Now, I know I've said that I don't like that every Marvel property has to be save the world, grandiose, and everything, but in the terms of Miss Marvel, they're doing it in a way that is keeping it street level. Like, as opposed to Moon Knight. When Moon Knight had to defeat Amit, she caused a worldwide problem. Whereas in Miss Marvel, the Jinn are very directly interfering with Kamala and her life specifically. So even though if she fails, the world ends, it feels more or less the equivalent of Spider-Man fighting like the Green Goblin or Doc Ock or something. Like it feels very personal than like, hey, you've been street level, but if you don't stop this person, everything's destroyed and look at this, all this bad stuff is happening around the world. No, Kamala's just like, hey, if you lose, the world is destroyed, but if you keep screwing up along the way, it's going to affect you extremely personally. Like your friends, your family are going to be the ones hurt, and a lot of people might not even know any of this is going on. I like that. I think it's a really good way to have that proper balance between you guys keeping your world-ending thing for all of your superheroes and keeping things street level for characters that should be street level. So, kudos to you guys for doing that. Another issue that I had overall with the series is that I don't like it when superheroes get their costumes at the end of their journey. I like seeing them get it early on and then become the superhero as things go on, or at least like a short portion throughout the movie so it makes sense, because I'm just sick of going to a superhero movie and seeing a person in regular street clothes fumble around for like 2 hours before they get their super suit and there's like triumphant fanfare music. I remember that happened in the Uncharted movie that came out earlier this year with Tom Holland and not Damon, Mark Wahlberg. Towards the end of the movie, if you haven't seen it, it's okay. If you're a fan of the Uncharted games, you probably won't like it, but if you've seen the movie, it's just whatever. But towards the end of the movie, Tom Holland finally puts on Nathan Drake's outfit that he wears in the games, like the long sleeve shirt, the necklace, and the holster and everything for his pistol, and it has this giant fanfare music where the Uncharted theme plays. They're like dun, 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 and I'm like, okay, cool. He looks the way he does in the games now, sort of, because Tom Holland has a baby face, but that it's not a disservice, but it didn't work for Nathan Drake. Anyway, veering off topic. And I was just like, do we need this? Couldn't he have just like been that from the beginning and we just told the story with him in that? No? Okay. So I was afraid they were going to do that in Miss Marvel, and she doesn't have her full suit yet, and they did have a little fanfare thing where she finally wore her superhero mask that she wears in the comics for the first time, which I found was funny. But it seems that in this show, Kamala is gaining her costume from the people that she cares about. Like in, I believe it was episode 2, Kamala got her mask that she wears from her best friend, and she also gets the scarf that she wears from her other best friend. And in this episode, she gains the blue, I don't know what to call it. I'm not sure what it's called, but it's like her blue shirt or like dress, whatever you want to. I guess it's more of a shirt, vest, whatever. Doesn't matter. Her blue thing that's going to cover her torso from the Red Dagger. So she's slowly but surely gaining all the components that make up her superhero costume, which will then lead into the finale where she takes all of these elements from the people that she loves and cares about and forges her costume. And I actually really like that. I like it a lot. I can't believe they found a way to change my opinion on this thing. So now if she doesn't get her costume until the 6th episode, and it's because she's been picking it up along the way before forging it into her Ms. Marvel costume, I think I'll be okay with it. The big thing that I think most people are probably talking about before I end this video is the final sequence of the episode where Kamala is seemingly sent back in time to partition when her grandmother was separated from her family on the train. So I don't know if Kamala is like a ghost or something, or if it's just a really vivid vision or if she's actually sent back in time. If she is actually sent back in time, it feels like Kamala is going to be the person that gives her grandmother the path to lead to the train, because her grandmother kept telling her this story about how there was a trail of stars that led to the train for her to reach her Kamala's grandfather, great grandfather, whatever, for her to reach her family and, you know, not be trapped alone. And if Kamala is actually back in time, it seems like Kamala is probably going to be the person that sees that, and she's going to use her powers to lead out the trail that allows her grandmother to get back on the train, and it's going to come full circle. I typically don't like time loops. I'm not a fan of those things, but I think it might be something I can look past, so that's what they're going with in the show. Personally, I hate time loops because it's a very long thing. Maybe I'll make a video about it in the future about why I can't stand them, but I just don't like the fundamental logic behind time loops because they just never come out logical, and then it affects the story in a way that I can't move past it. So I might be able to move past it, but we'll see. Episode 5 isn't out yet, so I'll find out next week. But that being said, I think that about wraps up this video and my thoughts on Ms. Marvel episode 4. I'm still loving this show. I think this is the best MCU show so far. I didn't get to talk about Hawkeye on this channel, but Hawkeye was my favorite MCU show up until this point. I think it was the best made one so far. Everything was fantastic except the finale with the Kingpin. Probably not going to talk about Hawkeye later, but you know, that's what I enjoyed. But so far, Ms. Marvel has kicked Hawkeye's ass, if I'm being perfectly honest. It has all the things I loved about Hawkeye, but it is managing to keep everything up perfectly. So if it holds up in the finale, and the finale of Ms. Marvel ends up being better than Hawkeye, they'll take number 1, Hawkeye number 2, and I don't know, probably Loki at number 3, because I didn't particularly care for it. Don't need to go into all that. I'm just going to end this video before I keep rambling. But that's what you're here for, right? If you didn't make it to the end of this. So, at the end of the day, I'm the innocent villain. Remember, folks, you're innocent until messing up my own outro. Remember, folks, you're innocent until proven villainous, and have a beautiful night, and I'll catch you in the next one.